What's up, guys? D-Rock 1992 here. If you remember way back, about a month ago, something like that, I did a video on Ben Affleck. I figure I do a video on Ben Affleck. This video is going to be about Matt Damon. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, of course, I mentioned in the Ben Affleck video that they've been best friends for years, and they've been in each other's movies before. A few different collaborations with each other. But you mentioned Ben Affleck. You also mentioned Matt Damon. Probably the better actor out of both of them is Matt Damon. He's had some very memorable roles. He's had roles that definitely no one expected him to do that well in, but he did. I'll talk more about the film trilogy later on that's made him pop. I mean, one of the many films that's made him a viable movie star. But, without further ado, I'm going to get right into his filmography, and then his television career I'll kind of talk about a little bit as well, because he's had a little bit of one. His film debut came all the way back in 1988, so he's been a movie actor for about 3 decades now. About 3 different, he's been in 4 different decades. But his film debut comes in a movie called Mystic Pizza. Weird name for a movie, definitely. He plays, in fact, his role is so small that he only has one line within the entire film. Just that one line, and that's it. After Mystic Pizza, he went through a little bit of an adjustment period, definitely, trying to get his name recognized. He had some roles that he definitely had supporting roles in. 1989, actually, a very prominent film that he was in. He was an extra in the film Field of Dreams, the famous Kevin Costner movie Field of Dreams. He was in that. That's really the only one worth mentioning before 1997, because 1997, pretty much everybody knows what his breakout movie was, what made him a superstar, and that was 1997's Good Will Hunting. That is a classic movie, one of the better ones of the 90s, probably. Could have a discussion as one of the better movies of all time. Ben Affleck, also in the movie with Matt Damon, and Robin Williams, the late Robin Williams, in this movie as well. Matt Damon plays the title character Will Hunting, and the story is that the plot is that he's a troubled teenager who is forced to go to counseling. Robin Williams plays the psychologist, and the scenes between those two, I've seen clips before of these scenes. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I've seen clips, and they're just so dynamic. I mean, Robin Williams serving as that mentor to Matt Damon's character. That this movie, Good Will Hunting, just made Damon a superstar. It was definitely, it put him on the way. I mean, it made him a superstar pretty much. In 1998, he comes out with a movie called Rounders. I think this is about gambling, if I'm not mistaken. This is a gambling movie about high-stakes poker. He stars in this movie with Edward Norton. Pretty, for Matt Damon fans, definitely a recognizable film. 1998, he starred in the classic Tom Hanks movie Saving Private Ryan. And I say it's pretty much a Tom Hanks movie. Matt Damon plays the title guy, Private James Francis Ryan, but he's only in the movie for a little while. I mean, he comes into the picture. They talk about Private Ryan throughout the film, but he's only in the film for a quarter of the way, pretty much. So he can't really be. I mean, the main guy's Tom Hanks, no doubt about it. But Saving Private Ryan, one of Spielberg's masterpieces about World War II. They have to save Damon's character's three brothers had already been killed in World War II. So Tom Hanks and his crew have the assignment of going to find Private Ryan. They do so, and it's just a very good movie. A very good. I will say this again, probably. Watch the first 25 minutes of Saving Private Ryan. That's about as realistic as you can get. The first 25 minutes, Matt Damon wasn't in it, but it's the invasion, the D-Day invasion of Normandy, June 6, 1944. Just as realistic as they can get. A little something about Good Will Hunting that I did not talk about before. He won an Academy Award for it. But he didn't win for Best Actor. He was nominated. He didn't win for Best Actor. He won an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. He and Ben Affleck wrote this movie. And they both received the Academy Award for that screenplay. So they screenwrote the movie, and a big success for them, obviously. In 1999, a movie that I've watched came out, The Talented Mr. Ripley. He plays Tom Ripley. Matt Damon does. In this movie also you have Cate Blanchett, you have Jude Law, and Gwyneth Paltrow. But The Talented Mr. Ripley, Tom Ripley is a guy who would best be described as a serial killer, kind of. He's just a mild-mannered, weird guy, and he's a sociopath, basically. And this film's really good. I mean, you have a great performance from Matt Damon, absolutely. This really proved that he could be a great actor. Good Will Hunting definitely proved it. Talented Mr. Ripley probably reinforced that fact that he can be, this guy can be a really good actor. But Talented Mr. Ripley, it's a great watch. Maybe one of his more underrated films, but check it out if you haven't seen it. It's a really good take on sociopath, the sociopath way and things like that. In 2000, this is one worth mentioning, The Legend of Bagger Vance. He stars in this movie. He is a co-star in this movie with Will Smith and Charlize Theron. This is about golf, I believe. Yes, it is. It is about golf. The sport of golf, and have not watched it yet. I would love to, however. I mean, three caliber actors, right, that are, the big co-stars in the movie. In Will Smith, Matt Damon, and Charlize Theron. But yeah, definitely one worth mentioning. 2001, he is part of an ensemble cast. The first of three movies. I'm talking about 2001's Ocean's 11. There was an Ocean's 12 that he was in that was in 2004, and an Ocean's 13 that came out in 2007. This is a heist trilogy, pretty much. This is about... He's a kind of a co-star in this movie. There's a lot of big actors in this movie. Don Cheadle, Brad Pitt, George Clooney. Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12, and 13 are heist movies, pretty much. They have to rob banks. They're robbers. They're professional robbers, professional thieves. And I've seen 11 and 12. I've seen the beginning of 13, but not the entirety of it. But yeah, check out the Ocean's 11 trilogy, the Ocean's trilogy, if you have not seen it. They're complicated. Ocean's 12 is just one complicated movie. Wow. When I watched it, it just wow. Ocean's 11, not as complicated. Some good little twists in that movie. But yeah, definitely. Check it out. 2002. He comes out with a movie that I don't think a lot of people expected from him. I mean, Matt Damon's known as a dramatic kind of actor. Dramatic slash comedic in a way. More of a dramatic actor. And 2002's The Bourne Identity casts him as Jason Bourne, who is an action hero, an action star. Not a lot of people, when this movie came out, predicted that he would do so well with the Bourne movies. But it turns out Matt Damon did a very good job. I've watched all three. There's the Bourne Identity in 2002, Bourne Supremacy in 2004. Bourne Supremacy is significant because it was my first PG-13 movie that I ever saw in theaters. That holds a special place in my heart. And the Bourne Ultimatum, which came out in 2007. But the Bourne movies, one of the most successful trilogies, not trilogies, but one of the most successful film series of all time, one of the most successful action film series of all time. Jason Bourne in all three of the movies he was in. There was another movie, The Bourne Legacy, that he did not star in. Jeremy Renner actually starred in that movie. More on the Bourne series later about... there is an upcoming Bourne movie that I will talk about later on. But anyway, Jason Bourne, as far as dialogue goes, in the three Bourne movies that he is in, Jason Bourne really does not say a whole lot. He doesn't really have a lot of dialogue. But it's definitely... it's good he doesn't, because... I mean, it's almost kind of good he doesn't, because he's capturing the realism and the... you know, the intrigue of Jason Bourne. He's capturing that by not saying anything. And that's something not a lot of actors can do. You know? Only the best ones can really do that. Another film worth mentioning, 2003, he starred in the movie Stuck on You. Greg Kinnear also stars in this film. It's a comedy film, directed by the Farrelly brothers. And this movie, I don't believe, got very good reviews at all. Well, actually, it actually didn't do so bad. But it's not one of the Farrelly brothers' big hits. But it kind of proves that Matt Damon can really kind of get into comedy as well. And be somewhat competent in it. You know, from a fan's perspective, I think. Let's see here. There is another one here worth mentioning, 2005 Syriana, which I believe is a geopolitical thriller film. He stars in this movie with George Clooney. You'll find that George Clooney and Matt Damon have been in a lot of movies together. This is one of them, Syriana. That was 2005. 2006, I mentioned in the video I did about Joe Pesci that he was a main character in The Good Shepherd. 2006 also, he comes out with one of the best Scorsese films of all time. Probably this could be up there with Raging Bull and Goodfellas and Mean Streets and Taxi Driver, but The Departed. This has a big cast. Leonardo DiCaprio, Matt Damon, Jack Nicholson, Mark Wahlberg, Alec Baldwin, Martin Sheen. There are a lot of big-time actors in this film, and in some movies, just because there's a big cast doesn't mean a big-time superstar cast doesn't mean the movie will necessarily do well. Not the case in The Departed. A big cast in this movie, and it does very well. 92% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. That tells you all you need to know about this film. It's just big. This is one of those movies that is on my bucket list. My vast bucket list. I want to see this movie so bad. Hopefully I choose one of these days. Definitely. It seems like it'd be one of my kind of films. But that's one worth mentioning. Let's see. In 2009, this is one that he's kind of he was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in this film, Invictus. This is about soccer, I believe. It's actually directed by Clint Eastwood, of all people. But Clint Eastwood, a famous director as well as an actor. I'll talk about him one of these days. But Morgan Freeman is in the film. He's the big star. And Matt Damon also. And this is about soccer. This is about the events in South Africa before and during the 1995 Rugby World Cup, which was hosted in South America following the dismantling of apartheid. But this one is a big film that Matt Damon was in, and probably required a lot of acting, a lot of good acting from him. 2010, he appears in the remake of the 1969 John Wayne movie True Grit. He has a small role in the film. A pretty small role. Jeff Bridges is the main actor in the film. Josh Brolin is in the movie. Haley Steinfeld, child actress. But this remake was unbelievable. 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. So that definitely tells you something, that the film just did so well. But he had a supporting role in the film. 2011, he stars in the movie Contagion, about a contagious virus. This contagious virus of some sort. Jude Law, Gwyneth Paltrow from The Talented Mr. Ripley star with him in the film, and Kate Winslet. That's another one worth mentioning. Let's see here. 2013, he stars with Michael Douglas in a movie called Behind the Candelabra, which is a drama film, and I think this movie was on HBO. Yes, it was. And it premiered at the 2013 Cannes Film Festival, and it's an HBO movie. And Michael Douglas and Matt Damon in the movie, Dan Aykroyd, Rob Lowe. But Behind the Candelabra is about Liberace and the secret affair he had with the younger Scott Thorson. Based on his memoir, Scott Thorson's memoir, Behind the Candelabra, My Life with Liberace. Probably another film right there that people didn't expect Matt Damon to play. Another role that they didn't expect him to play, but he knocks it out of the park again. 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. In 2013, also, he stars in Elysium, which is a science fiction film. It has, as well as Matt Damon, it has Jodie Foster from Silence of the Lambs. She was Clarice Starling in the Silence of the Lambs, and Elysium is one of those, it's a dystopian science fiction action thriller film. And this movie was one of the biggest of 2013, probably. It was one of the big blockbusters. And in this year, in 2014, he is coming out with he came out with the Monuments Men. And I got the pleasure of seeing the Monuments Men in theaters. He has a starring role, kind of, a supporting, co-starring role, whatever you want to call it, alongside George Clooney. Bill Murray is in the film, John Goodman. But the Monuments Men, my impression of the movie was it could have been a whole lot better. It was okay. You know, would I watch it again? Maybe. But there could have been a lot more that could have been done with the film in general. There are 2 upcoming films with Matt Damon worth mentioning. 2014's Interstellar, which is probably going to be, is a very hyped science fiction movie. Matt Damon actually has a pretty small role in the film. A very small role. This is a Matthew McConaughey-starred vehicle. Anne Hathaway is in the film. Jessica Chastain, Michael Caine, Ellen Burstyn, John Lithgow, Matt Damon with a very small role. This film coming out November 7th, or November 5th in North America. So look for that coming out November 5th. So not very long left until the film's going to come out. This is directed by Christopher Nolan, best known as the director of the Batman trilogy, the Dark Knight trilogy. Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises. And then there's another film coming out next year that he's going to be in called The Martian, which is another science fiction type film. Matt Damon has the starring role, and there's a few other people that are going to be in this movie that are pretty big as well. As far as, other actors that are going to be in the movie, I can't really think of who else is going to be in there, but I know Matt Damon's going to be a major star in that film. Look for that next year. Now I can talk about television. There's only going to be a few things that I'm talking about. From 2001 to 2005, he was the executive producer of 33 episodes of a reality program called Project Greenlight. Ben Affleck, also a producer of the film, or of the television series. He hosted Saturday Night Live in 2002. He guest starred on Will and Grace in 2002. Let's see. He was actually on the educational children's series Arthur in 2007. I have memories of Arthur. I have some big memories of Arthur as a young kid. He was in that in 2007. 2010 to 2011, he had a little guest story arc as a guy named Carol Burnett, actually, which is kind of weird. But he was named Carol Burnett, and 30 Rock was the show I'm talking about. 2011, he's uncredited in an episode of Saturday Night Live, the Katy Perry episode from 2011. In 2013, he appears on Jimmy Kimmel Live. I've seen clips of that episode. He ties up Jimmy Kimmel and takes over the show, basically. And the episode's called Jimmy Kimmel Sucks. If you're familiar with Jimmy Kimmel, you'll know that he's had a big rivalry with Matt Damon for years. Jimmy Kimmel basically, he takes shots at Matt Damon whenever he can. Matt Damon will take shots at him. It's definitely a back and forth thing. I think it's played out. It's obvious. I think it's made up. They just do it for comedy, basically, comedy purposes. But something worth mentioning there. That's pretty much it for my Matt Damon about. This guy's been a great actor for a long time. He has been, I think he is a superstar actor, honestly. He can do what he wants now that he's really established. And, hopefully he comes up with better successes. I do hear that there's going to be, real quick before I end here, there is going to be a 5th Bourne movie that supposedly is going to have Jeremy Renner, who was in the Bourne Legacy, and Matt Damon in the same film together. Jeremy Renner did not play Jason Bourne. He played a different person. But Jason Bourne and whoever Jeremy Renner played in the same movie, that should be a dynamic movie right there. So look for that. I don't know when it's going to come out, but I don't know if it's even really confirmed yet, honestly. But look for that in the near future, probably. So that's it for my Matt Damon video. D-Rock 1992 out.